Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, and our speaker is Argus.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. My name is Argus, and I'm an alcoholic. It's wonderful to be here tonight. First of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to the birthday folks. Welcome to the newcomers. My name's Argus James Hamilton III. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a cocaine addict, lust junkie. I'm addicted to just about everything but gambling. Gambling's the only thing that missed me. I got stark evidence of that about a month ago. I was in Las Vegas. Mitzi Shore sent me there to check out showrooms for the Comedy Store. She wants to go back there. And I hadn't been there in 10 years. I want to know by round of applause, how many people have been to Vegas in the last year? By round of applause. Okay. These hotels now are so lawsuit averse when it comes to the disease of gambling. How many people have seen this sign? Right by the ATM phone, they have signs that read, I swear to God, applaud if you've seen this, do you have a gambling problem? Dial 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a gambling problem. I picked up the phone about 1 in the morning. I said, yeah, I got an ace and a 6. What should I do? Clueless. But blow and alcohol, I'm right there, kids. By the grace of God, this November 3rd, if he's good enough to me, I'll be 19 years clean and sober. Today I have 6,928 days clean and sober. A lot of you all have known me for a long time, and I love you. I want to start off, before I get rolling, I'm a product of the rehabs of the mid-1980s, you know, these glorious rehabs that took alcoholics and cocaine addicts, and in 28 days miraculously transformed us into sex maniacs and overeaters. A miracle. God bless us all. Do we have to go home, doctor? Oh, yeah, it was wonderful, you know. Everybody just rediscovering that sex drive and out of this world, my golly. And I want to start off, first of all, by thanking Jerry Shamalis for doing a tremendous job secretarying this meeting. All right? And some very, very, very important people in this program, as far as I'm concerned, have helped save this historic meeting. Okay? Rustum, who helped us with the transfer from Rodeo to Westwood Methodist to here, and Jeff Greenberg, who helped keep us the whole thing together. I want to thank them publicly from up here and tell you guys I love you. We're all baby boomers, but we all held true to this meeting, and we love this meeting. And I hope you kids here tonight develop the love for this meeting that we have. As I guarantee you, we're closer to each other than we are our own family in this room, and I wish you all the same closeness in your next 20 years as we've had. And if you folks are just dropping by to see if you're an alcoholic, they're happy. Oh, and Linda too. Linda, I love you too, hon. And so there's just a gang of baby boomers in here that've just been through everything together in sobriety. And Marty had to make a noise so I'd remember him. And I just love all of you. Thank you all for being here tonight. And if you're just shopping by, there is a sobriety checkpoint at Doheny and Sunset. I was the last one to get here. So for you folks that are just shopping, turn right on Whittier, take Elevado underneath. Take the Cynthia route up to Holloway, back up to La Cienega. You'll be back in town in no time. Right? Otherwise, they'll give you the Beverly Hills sobriety test. They show you a picture of Ricardo Montalban and Fernando Lamas. And you have to tell which is which. Don't guess Ricky Ricardo like I did. Or they'll throw you in the Beverly Hills jail. Bungalow 9. They had a prison riot there the other night. They tried to serve them red wine with fish. Terrible racket they made, all these credit cards banging against the bar. Perrier, Perrier, Perrier. Oh, guard, ding, 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 garçon. Do you call this king crab? Come on, men, we're going over the hedges. The sign says it all. The Beverly Hills Jail, a gated community. Right? Or they'll send you here to Beverly Hills AA. Beverly Hills AA always made me laugh before I got sober, just thinking about it. How low did your life have to go to wind up in Beverly Hills AA? Look at the way outsiders look at us, you know, for crying out loud. They just imagine the baby boomers like me up here at the podium. The night I hit my bottom in Bel Air. There I was back in 1982, sitting in the jacuzzi, upstairs in the master bedroom, with the sky roof open, on Mulholland Drive, the lowest night of my life. I had a pound of cocaine in one hand. I had a quart of Louis XIII cognac, 1909, in the other. And I'm sitting in that hot tub with 5 naked women. But thanks to AA, I'd never have to live like that again. You know? Newcomers just go flying out the door. Haven't hit that bottom yet. Let's go do some more research. Yeah. And that's just the baby boomers. You kids starting out, children of the baby boom, oh, you're funnier than any of us. One night we got like so drunk. We drove south of Olympic. And when we started seeing apartments, we knew it was time to turn our cars and our lives around. So just being here is great, okay? Jesus, kids, I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. I don't get a chance to do this a lot, and I thank Jerry for asking me to do this. I'm going to get to speak at the Betty Ford alumni. It's like Oscar night for drunks in 2 weeks, and I hope you newcomers. I just want you newcomers to identify with the alcoholic imagination, okay? Because I have this. I like every person in this room. I feel and think in Technicolor, okay? Absolutely in Technicolor. And I called up the Betty Ford Center. The Betty Ford Center, I'll talk about it in a minute, but it was my 5th rehab, okay? And it was the place that finally got me well. And that along with the halfway house afterwards. And I called up the Betty Ford Center. I'm doing the big convention in about 2 weeks to check out my hotel reservations. They're putting me up at the Esmeralda in Indian Wells. I want to make sure everything was all fine. So I called the Betty Ford Center, 1-800-739-4100. You know, that's for you newcomers, that's the number, 1-800-739-4100. And this wonderful woman named Nini has been answering the phone there for 20 years. Virtually an intake counselor, sort of an honorary intake counselor. Everyone loves Nini. So I was looking forward to saying hi to her. So I dialed 1-800-739-4100. And she must have either been on a bathroom break or talking to a customer. Because I swear to God, the #1 most famous rehab in the world, I called the number and they put me on voicemail. This is what an alcoholic would hear if they called that day. Thanks for calling the Betty Ford Center. Please make your selection from the following menu. So my alcoholic imagination went off, right? Speed freaks, press 1 as often as you like. Heroin addicts, get someone else to press 2. for you. Cokeheads, deposit $100 for the next 3 minutes. What are you wearing? Me too. You're my best friend ever. I'm going to the bathroom. Don't do my blow. I'm trusting you, man. And finally, potheads. Once again, you've dialed the wrong number. Domino's is 739-4101. You missed it by a digit, dude. Now get it together. Don't bring your little pot problem to Betty Ford. This is a place for professional addicts. Come back when you have a story that will entertain us. We're not interested in anybody on their way up. With your little Hunter Thompson starter kit. Oh boy. So listen, kids. I was born alcoholic. I don't mind. This is a room full of kids. Essentially, I believe most of y'all are familiar with the Los Angeles / New York. You know, throw in London, Nexus. It's quite a sophisticated urban crowd. But the rest of this country is as foreign to you as anything east of La Brea can be. Everything between New York and Los Angeles, the best way to put it is, let's just call it England on steroids, okay? It's not multicultural. They don't sit around and sing, you know, happy days, we are the world. No, 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 no. It's the same war between Puritans and Cavaliers that have been going on since 1642. We are in that church now, my church, the Episcopalian Church. God bless us all. We are the Cavaliers. We are the easy grace crowd. I believe that Jesus died to save my sins, and I'd hate to give him nothing to do up there. We spend our life fighting Puritans, Baptists, who live in the constant fear that somewhere, someone is having a good time. They won't even make love standing up. They're afraid God will think they're dancing. This is new information for many of you. But this is what's going on in what we call the United States of America and England, its mother. This is what's going on. And we are genetically in this area. We'll just call it Brigadoon for your own little frame of reference, okay? Brigadoon, we'll call it, is genetically predisposed to alcoholism. So that's why I didn't mind being an alcoholic, okay? It's just plain genetically, you know, connected to the British race. That's all I can say. 1 out of every 4 English are alcoholic. 1 out of every 3 Scots are alcoholic. 1 out of every 2 Welsh are alcoholic. 6 out of every 1 Irish are alcoholic. Right? It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just the way the dice will roll. Now, what I want to talk about tonight is my sense of separation and my need for unity. Okay? I have a wonderful sponsor, Linda Kramer, who has always stressed to me this need for unity. She got it from her sponsor, my grand sponsor, Chuck Chamberlain. It is unity that heals me, okay? And that's why I want to tell every newcomer in this room, you're looking at a guy that loved alcohol. You're looking at a guy who loved cocaine. I loved every drop. I loved every snort. The only thing I didn't like was what everyone put me on was pot, because it made me too agreeable and unselfish. But I had to smoke pot to fit in with everyone, you know. I put up with it, but blowing alcohol, that's where it was with me, all right? I graduated from the University of Oklahoma, where I majored in Coors. I had a 3.2, and due to my high intellect, I was allowed to graduate after just 3 terms, Nixon, Ford, and Carter's, right? And I want to let you kids know a couple things. First of all, I was born disconnected to this planet. My first drug of choice was military heroes and reading about them. I learned to read early, and I connected to this other world. It was always this other, better world that I connected to. And like all Southern boys, my heroes were Robert E. Lee, the Duke of Marlborough, okay? Winston Churchill. Those were George Washington, at least the one during the French and Indian War, okay? We were connected. We were connected to these guys. And I rode with them. I fought with them. I won the battles with them. And I was a happy man, you know, when I'd turn on the flashlight so my parents would think I was asleep and read and read and read because I was connected to my heroes. I was there with Marlborough at the Battle of Blenheim. I was there with Robert E. Lee at Chattanooga. I was there with Winston Churchill during their finest hour. I was there. And boy, did I feel good. And I was just 6 years old. Something else happened to me, though. As I got older, as a baby boomer and a child of the media, I started getting connected to other people. When I was 9, 10 years old, something told me that this guy see, there were only 3 stations back in my period, back when I was growing up. CBS, NBC, and ABC. ABC generally had on a Carson knockoff. NBC had on Jack Parr, then Johnny Carson. And CBS had a deal with Warner Brothers and played all the great Warner Brothers movies. They also had a deal with Lowe's and did the MGM. But it was the Warner Brothers stars that I started connecting with when I was 10 and 11 years old. And one of them in particular, and he'd been dead for 3 or 4 years, but I couldn't wait. I would look in the TV guide on the Sunday section of the Daily Oklahoman every Sunday to see if he was going to be on. And that was Errol Flynn. I'm saying, man, I was 19 years old. I said, that's me. I had no idea about his life, what he'd gone through. I didn't know that he died drunk at the age of 50. I didn't know his tragic, star-crossed life. But I knew that's who I wanted to be. About a year later, I added Hugh Hefner to my collection. A blonde in one hand, a cocktail in the other. I haven't had a drink yet, but already I'm associating with Errol Flynn and Hugh Hefner. Right? And then my parents started allowing me to stay up just late enough to watch Johnny's monologue. Okay? And after Johnny's monologue, if Buddy Hackett's on or Rickles or if one of the comics are on, I'll stay up a little later. And I start getting brought into this Vegas hi-ho lifestyle that was sold to us in the mid-'60s, those of us who were 12 and 13 years old. It was a thing to be. I'm slowly identifying with alcoholics and alcoholism because I know it's a better world, and I was right. Finally, puberty hit, and here he came, the ultimate identifier for me. He came and he just clobbered this country and conquered it single-handedly. James fucking Bond. All right. Now listen, let me tell you kids today, you kids with your $40 cocaine, you had it so easy. Back in my day, it was $120 a gram. You only made $200 a week. We spent $3,000 a month. You had to want it. You kids making $3,000 a week, and your cracky poo is $10. Well, all right. Let me tell you kids something. There was you think Pierce Brosnan? I got passed over again with this new guy. You think Pierce Brosnan? You think Roger Moore was? When Sean Connery hit this country in 1963, I mean, Jack Kennedy was paying for tickets to see it. All right. Jack would be added later to my list of heroes. Only after I got to know him, after the scandals broke in the mid-'70s. I understood why I loved him too. So there I was, all connected and all ready for that other world. All right? I was one of those kids from, I'll tell you another thing about the South. The South is, what happened in America was the Puritans settled the North and the Cavaliers settled the South. We're basically a civil war that's been going on since the 1640s. The Puritans became the Whigs, who became the Republicans. They lived by a theology called Calvinism. Calvinism states that life is like a box of chocolates, and you can't have any. Okay? All right? The Cavaliers became the Tories. These are Episcopalians, Methodists, the AMEs. Cavaliers became the Tories, who became the Democrats. Right? We live by the Clinton doctrine, which states, I can resist anything except temptation. Okay? Now, The reason I bring this up for you is because in the most crucial time, I've got these little opinions. One of my opinions is people are in show business to get even with junior high, okay? And in that crucial era of junior high, get this. Now, kids, listen up. In the segregated South, okay, you were able to cleave off in the middle of junior high and have absolute hatred and resentment on two sides, okay? On one side, you got the Scotch-Irish, Baptist, hoe the land, Aggies, okay? All right? Other side, you got us Anglicans, the Episcopalians and the Methodists, all right? In junior high, we're the golfers, okay? We're the golf team, all right? We're not going to get even with everybody till college, but right now we're the golf team, okay? These Aggies, these Scotch-Irish, these Baptists, these rednecks is what they were, and I mean they were rednecks. They kept their knives sharpened, they kept their guns clean, they kept their animals nervous. What they had, I'm trying to explain my resentments to you because I want you kids to know I became a resentment-seeking missile. That's the core element of my disease, is I'm a resentment-seeking missile. Because once I feel that resentment, I have permission to act out on it and medicate, okay? So I figured out early in life, I got to have that resentment, because once I feel that resentment, So the resentment was that these rednecks were the football heroes. We've got some Southerners in here tonight, and you know what football is in the South. I'm sure it's the most Southern thing about Southern California is your addiction to high school football as well. It's everything. And I'm telling you, those big rednecks hated us. There was a class resentment that had gone on since 1619, technically. But I'm telling you, they hated us. And they intimidated me. And so for 5, 6 long years, they got the girls, okay? They got the girls. I worked my way down to a 3 handicap. I became a university scholar and then, you know, all this stuff. I got the IQ. I drank it away, of course. But the point is that I got through junior high and high school just resentment-ridden, absolutely resentment-ridden. And it wasn't until I went to a rush party in Norman, Oklahoma. The ATO rush party had my first 2 12-ounce cups of Coors beer. The moment those 2 beers went down me, newcomers, I was part of. I was just as good looking as any guy in the room. I'd been just as good a football player as anyone that had been back that I'd tell you about. I was James Bond. I was not only James Bond, with God as my witness, I met a nice girl there, and we talked, and we laughed, and we connected, and we went out in the back of her pickup truck and made love twice. I mean, what do you know when you're 16? And all this told me what? Beer works. Okay? And I remember going back home because I had to get back home that night, and I remember feeling this awful agitation as the 2 beers was wearing off. It was really aggravating. You know, I had trouble sleeping and tossing and turning and tossing and turning. I read and read and read myself, finally went to sleep. But the pattern was clear. Beer worked. I would go on into college, pledged ATO, and started doing all the campus shows, had a ball at the University of Oklahoma. I had an absolute ball. But I drank myself silly every night. I was initiated early into the ATO house because I could be the social chairman, get all the bands, get all the beer, make all the arrangement. I was the social chairman for 4 years, maybe one of the biggest houses in the Southwest. And I'm telling you, it was an absolute ball. I hosted all the campus shows. It was all musicals. My life in college, if you're a movie aficionado, my life in college was Good News starring Peter Lawford and June Allison. It was an Arthur Freed unit everywhere. We danced, we had all the stuff. It was more fun. It was Brigadoon, and it worked. But we had some Yankees in our house from Chicago. They were on the gym team, and they brought down this marijuana, and I'd never tried that before. We piled into a car one night, I went to the drive-in theater, 6 of us in a GTO convertible. They started passing this pot around, and I had my first marijuana experience. An hour after we smoked these 2 joints, we were hysterically laughing so hard, it's like we were throwing off the outside, you know? We were just going nuts, and we were asked to leave. We were kicked out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for laughing. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And we went back to the ATO house. We played bridge till 4 in the morning and just laughed it up. And people loved me on pot because I was quiet and agreeable, and I'd listen to your jokes, and I wouldn't try to top you all the time. I'd just appreciate you. Oh, people love me on pot. I couldn't stand it. And to cut to the chase, my senior year, super senior year, I should add, we were sitting around the ATO living room doing what we normally did around 10:30 to 11:30, sitting with our dates and watching the Johnny Carson show. And a young comedian came out, rest his soul, one of us. Sammy Davis Jr. set the whole thing up, and out came Freddie Prinze. And Freddie Prinze came out and just electrified that crowd. Just electrified the crowd, and Sammy and Johnny brought him over, sat down on the panel, and Freddie sat down and he started talking about a brand new place on the Sunset Strip called the Comedy Store. And suddenly, I knew I wouldn't have to go to New York and freeze, you know. There was a place in LA I could go. Just Mitzi's luck, the Comedy Store had opened the very month that Johnny moved the Tonight Show out to Los Angeles. It was just perfect timing, and suddenly, before I knew it, I was on the Sunset Strip, getting passed by Mitzi, and being with the best pledge class any comedian could ever be with. The most unbelievable group of baby boomers came out in 75, 76, 77, and we were incredibly close. It wasn't 2 months before somebody broke out this white powder. I'd heard about it, but I had heard it might be addictive, okay? And so I turned it down twice. To this day, I'm mad at myself for turning down cocaine twice before I knew I was addicted. It was like free pass. I could have had it, you know? And finally, I agreed to do it. I snorted it, and I had 2 reactions. I said, ouch! I like that! I'm the king of the world! And there I had my little holy trinity of the negative force. The negative higher power had its 3rd member of the trinity. I had alcohol, okay? I had alcohol to let me fit in. I had marijuana to let me connect with you. And I had cocaine to give me world power every 15 minutes. Perfect. What else could you want? So, Quaaludes, the girls like the Quaaludes. This is before you kids had your rupees. We had Quaaludes. And it was the girls' idea to have sex. Yeah, the rape was on the other foot. In the meantime, I discovered, by quite accidentally, that I was completely emotionally ill-equipped for real relationship. I could only connect with an audience for some reason. My sponsor called, I came up with this, and this is how we dated in the 70s, it's how we date in the new millennium in Los Angeles. I call it the conga line of rejection, okay? It's Los Angeles dating in a nutshell, okay? Guys chase after women who don't want them and run from women who do, okay? And women run after guys that don't want them and run from men who'd marry you in a New York minute. Okay, I call it the conga line of rejection. For instance, right now, I'm after the church secretary. The secretary is after me. An actor is after her. The director is after him. The IRS is after everybody. We're all going down La Cienega Boulevard, chasing someone on 3 beats, rejecting someone on 4. Like dun 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 dun. No! Dun 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 dun. No! No! My sponsor says, that's the LA disease. High ego and low self-esteem at the same time. Our town motto is, as you know, I may not be much, but I'm all I ever think about, right? That's who we are. This is the life we have chosen. I'm okay with that. But let me get sober here. After 5 of the most glorious years, I saw the handwriting on the wall. What had happened to this country was, and there's some baby boomers in here to know this, this country was as wrapped up and tightly wound over the Vietnam War as we are now over another conflict. And when that war finally ended in 1973, and Nixon resigned, my generation went on this party that lasted from August of '74 till the night Belushi died. And for you kids, there was actually a time in this town in Los Angeles when cocaine was not considered bad for you. Doctors weren't sure about it. Doctors thought it might not be bad. These are the same doctors that wound up owning all the rehabs. But it was normal. It wasn't an outlaw thing like all of you who started getting high after '84. It was not. That was an outlaw thing. I understand outlaw thing. You bet. Let's do it. But there was a time when it was the in thing to do. That's what I want to impress upon you kids. It was the in thing to do. And I saw the end coming January 26, 1981. I was about to do the Tonight Show again, and I did a lot with Johnny. And Ronald Reagan and Nancy had just been inaugurated. And I was going over my routine with Jim McCauley, the talent coordinator. And I said, I saw there was Hurricane Charlie just hit Miami, did $50 million worth of damage. I said, gee, the cocaine must have gotten wet, okay? Right? Nice, easy blow joke. I was going to open with it, right? Because that's what you opened with in the 70s. You opened with a Coke joke so everybody would be on your side, right? That's what we did. Jim McCauley said, I'm sorry, have you heard what happened? I said, no. He said, Nancy Reagan just called Fred DeCordova, the executive producer from the White House, their old social friend. And Nancy said, no more Coke jokes. You're doing the show with Johnny, you're doing the show with Bob Hope. They can't do them either. They both squawk because they were both opening with Coke jokes. Hey, Bob Hope. Bob Hope was opening with Coke jokes. That's how hot it was. And I'm telling you, if you ever Google it, it's 1981 and it's February when the LA Times does an article on it. They run Bob's line, they run Johnny's line. I'm telling you, Nancy clamped down and put the kibosh on how merry and happy the drug and alcohol life is. She deserves credit for that, but the end of the party was near. And so finally by 1981, I started going to the rehabs. And 5 rehabs later, 1986, November 3rd, I went into the Betty Ford Center. Sam Kennison and Ollie Joe Prater carried my bags in. The admitting nurse looked up at him and said, 2? They said, no, wait till you see what's in the car. And in I came, and I was ready. Something happened to me in there, and I want to share this with you kids. Please listen up. It saved my life. I hope it's contagious. I turned 35 about 5 days into the rehab, feeling like the oldest kid in junior high. All my pals had either cleaned up or were dead or were getting away with it, which really made me mad. And I'd already made a lot of friends at the Betty Ford Center. Some of you know Bardine. We were in with her. And these 18, 19-year-old kids came in with a birthday cake. And they said, happy birthday to you. This was a birthday cake to me. Happy birthday to you. Take the next plane to Vegas, and we'll see you back here soon. And I had my moment of truth right there. These desert rats were laughing at me. The same kids that I hated in junior high and high school were laughing at me. And it had been 5 years. I blew a very promising career, okay? Threw it up. You know, and didn't care and still don't. I'm doing what God wants me to do. But I'm telling you, I threw it out the window, merrily, okay? And I don't regret a second of it now. But I promise you kids, I threw it away. But my moment of truth happened when these kids were laughing at me and mocking me. And at that moment, I pray each and everybody has that moment in this room, kids. Because that's the moment I said, okay, God, you win. We'll do it your way. I had loved rehabs. I'd had a ball in there. I decided to do what I was told. A naval intelligence officer named Dan Beardshear threw me up against the wall and says, Argus, you're going to do it our way this time. We're going to have you segregated from the group for about 5 hours a day, and you're going to work a fourth step. You're going to do the whole thing, and at the end of your time here, you're going to read it to an Episcopalian rector we have on call here in Rancho Mirage. So I did it, and with about 2 days left, the rector came in, I sat down. Kids, I told him every secret, every fear, every resentment, every anger, every sexual, whatever thing I did, you know, all the women I'd seduced and didn't care about, and their mothers I'd had phone sex with, you know. You had to adjust at 4 in the morning. And change your game plan. I never attracted what I wanted. I attracted what I am. And when I read every fear, every anger, every secret, I was somehow connected to this planet. I read it to this guy, and it took 3.5 hours to read every fear, every resentment, and every secret. And with God as my witness, I walked back into group, and the group is full of rock stars and people in LA we all know and hang out with. But as far as LA people are concerned, it's a hip group, okay? This is a hip group. This isn't a bunch of evangelicals waiting in the room at the Betty Ford Center, okay? This is about 25 people in my group that are one of us. I walk in, and they stare at me. They go, Jesus, Argus, what is with you? I said, what are you talking about? They said, you're glowing. I said, what are you talking about? They said, you're physically glowing. And I didn't realize this, kids, but at the time I was having my first spiritual experience as a result of working this step. And again, with God as my witness, once somebody knew my secrets, I was connected to this planet the same way alcohol and drugs connected me to this planet. I had the connection through the fellowship. I had what took the place of pot was open and honest sharing. What took the place of cocaine was surrendering today's ism and putting my life in God's hands and helping others. Man, that's a buzz. And I had that glow. About 2 years later, I finally finished my last amend. I handed Mitzi Shore $3,000 that I'd taken out of her purse, $100 bill at a time, and coasted down Doheny to the dealer's house, and gave her the money back. She never even knew I took it. Took it out of her bedroom by her purse, went down, because my father had cut me off by then. And when I gave her that money, she broke down crying. Because, well, she loves money. And, we were at a restaurant in Westwood, and I drove back to the Comedy Store, and I had one of these little 9:30 sets, okay? I had a 9:30 set. I was third on the show. You ask anybody here, that's nothing. I just stand up, I talk about the news, clean little act. I'm not a whiz-bang nightclub comic. I talk about the news. It's more like, TV prep. And that night, I walked on stage, and just, for the first and only time of my life at the Comedy Store, I got a standing ovation. And I said, what is going on here? This is insane. I went up to the doorman, Harris Pete, who is a practice goalie for the LA Kings. No softy he. I said, what's going on here? He says, Argus, you're glowing. I can't understand it, but you're glowing. And once again, I'd had a spiritual experience as a result of working every one of these amends. And what happened when I did the amends? I regained my power to choose. That's why Bill Wilson, an Episcopalian, put together this program, to give us the power to choose and to help others. That's the absolute core of Anglicanism. I finished my 9th step, and I regained the power to choose. I can choose not to drink now. And I beg you kids to give those first 9 steps a try, because then you're in for the real buzz. Then here comes an uncut blow of recovery. The uncut blow of recovery is helping newcomers. You think you're high on a couple of toots up to your good side, that you're kind of good side? Take the advice of that great old Methodist hymn, Anglicanism's daughter. Methodist hymn had a great hymn. Help somebody today, somebody along life's way. Let sorrow be ended, the friendless be friended. Help somebody today. My goal today is, let me distill 19 years of recovery into a couple of sentences. Don't want anything, and help everybody all day long. Help everybody all the way home in traffic. Let them in. Let them in. Help them. Watch the waves. Watch how it passes on. By the time I get to where I'm going, I'm glowing. That's what I'm after. I'm after the glow. Because when I went from beer to wild turkey to pot to blow, my whole life I was always going for the better buzz. What I want you visitors and newcomers to understand is you're looking at a guy who would be with you on the 5th night of the run. I could round up the money, I could round up the chicks, I could round up the blow. I could still do it now. The last thing you forget in this program is your dealer's phone number. But you know why I'm not doing it? Because I'm going for the better buzz. That's what this is. I'm not worried about my life and what's going to happen to me. I'm always after the better buzz. And recovery in this program, helping others, and subtracting the new drinks that come up in sobriety. You know, if it's food, if it's overspending, if it's chasing after emotionally unavailable people, if it's lust, and if it's finally to where I've graduated to, workaholism, surrendering that one day at a time and helping others. That's the best buzz. I wish you all the best buzz of all. I love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And I have to go. Thank you very much.